Okay, here we are in After Effects, and we're going to start looking at different compositing methods I'm going to use. We are going to go into Photoshop to do some of the background and stuff, but because ZBrush doesn't have embedded alphas, I tend to enjoy using the track matte system here in After Effects a little bit more. So I'm going to bring in our comp here. You can see the first picture is just a plain old render. It's called Blue Dull, and as you can see, it definitely fits the name. It's a bit of a dull look, not much to see here, but that's going to be the basis for what we're going to do. Okay, let's get back to normal here. Okay, so we're going to use this as our starting point, but we have a number of different things we can play around with to kind of make this look cool. And the first thing I want to show you is I did a bunch of renders here, and we're going to look at them as we go. Some of them, and I'm going to tell you up front, I do a lot of renders in ZBrush with different materials and so forth, with the understanding that I might use them or I might not. You know, it's actually kind of the fun part for me where I render out different things and see what I can use them for. This one here is called Rim. It's kind of a rim light. I'll put this over top, and you can see what I mean. See, it's basically the same picture, but it's just a rim light coming from behind. And I'm going to set this to screen, and you can see it just gives us a nice little backlight here on our guy. Okay, and we have a bunch of other things I want to kind of add to this to kind of make this look a little more dramatic. But you'll see I have a couple of different things here. I have rim and I have rim white, and I have something here called Crazy Blue, which is up here, and I want to play with the Crazy Blue here for a second. Now this, as you can see, I rendered out, I think it's the Blue Crow matte cap. It is crazy, and I'm going to bring this in over top here, and as you can see, it's way over the top. But what I want to do is use a little portion of this to kind of give us, again, a little bit of a rim feel. And this rim pass here, this where is rim white? Rim white, which is down here, I'm going to bring that in and pop it right over top of it. And you can see here, it's just basically a bright light shining at an angle that kind of just hits the edges of everything. And what I want to do is use this as a luma matte for that Crazy Blue. Okay, so and I might end up using this rim white, you know, as a rim light too. But for right now, I just want to use this as an alpha. So I'm going to go down here, and this is one of the reasons why I like using After Effects. It just seems so fast. Go to Crazy Blue and use a track matte, luma matte for rim white, and now we just have that Crazy Blue, but it's not quite so crazy. It's now got, you know, kind of like a nice little atmospheric feel to it. Okay, let's go back to this guy here. Now I might, like I said, I might want to bring in rim white as well and just use that as, you know, as a screen, as a way of kind of highlighting this a little bit more. And I have that option. I might just keep that there and just put the opacity way down so it's not too crazy, but it might just be a little bit of a, you know, of a highlight. I might knock it down even more, but that's a good way to kind of make it pop out against the background a little bit if we're so inclined. Let's give it a little bit of a rim light there. Might be too much. Maybe I'll go Crazy Blue and knock that down a little bit too, to like maybe 65%, something like that. So now it's, you know, got some look, but it's a little bit more on the subtle side. Okay, so we already have it popping out against the background a little bit. I also have an occlusion pass. It's not the most beautiful occlusion pass. It's kind of you know, it's not great. And if I bring it in here, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's kind of dull, and the settings should be better. So ultimately, I'm not going to use that. Probably I'm going to use the cavity pass instead. This is basically, when you look at this here, it has kind of the same things we would want in a occlusion pass, but a little too much grayscale. So I'm just going to go into effect. I'm just going to go into levels. Usually I'm more of a curves guy, but levels is pretty quick and easy with this. I'm just going to crank down the white input so that kind of makes it a little less gray in between there, and just make this multiply. Okay, now I'm going to go in and probably change the opacity to maybe 65% or so, so it's not quite so much, but it does give us some nice occlusion, and it gives us a little more weight, so it feels like the light is actually hitting something that's heavy or something. I don't know, it's just the way it seems to me. Now, we have some other strange things here, like Loden, for example. And this is just it's a pass with a certain matte cap that has a certain, you know, kind of yeah, it's just got a weird color to it. And I rendered that out just because I wanted to play around with it and see if I could get something out of it. Like if I went to classic color dodge, for example, you see how that kind of gives us a little bit of a warmer look. It's not necessarily what I'm looking for, but it's an idea, and I could go to the opacity and knock this way down to like 35%. And again, it just might add a little bit of warmth to it. Maybe not, but let's just turn it off and on. You can see just a tiny bit of warmth to this part, and I might want that, I might not. So I'm going to turn it off for now, but I have it there, and I can go back to it if I want to. Now I want to play around with some orange. You see here, this says orange, and I want to see what we can do with this. So what I'm going to do is bring orange down, and you're going to see this is a crazy orange guy. I rendered out this orange pass. It's a matte cap I got from Pixologic.com, and I rendered out that, like I rendered out a flat black material on the rock so it wouldn't be in the way. And this obviously is not one we're going to use a lot of, but it does give us some cool effects if we play around with some track matte. So what I mean is, if I bring in, for example, my white rim again, I can pop this right in front and use this Lumamat as, you know, a place for this orange to show through. Now this is a little much, so what I want to do is I want to actually change the way this is overlaid. I want to actually use a color dodge for this, so I'm going to grab these two guys and pre-compose them. Control Shift C. I'm just going to call this Orange PC for pre-comp, and now I can make the I spelled orange wrong, but you get the idea. I'm going to go to color dodge here, and that again, it just gives it a nice little bit of a warmer tint there, but on on the edge. I'll knock down the opacity just a tiny bit, but again, it just gives it, you know, this feeling that there's light coming from behind a little bit. I might actually even knock that down even more in terms of the opacity, but it does kind of, again, it helps it stand out against the background. Okay, just a little bit, maybe 55. Let's split the difference. Okay. So what else do we have? Well, I did a specular pass, which again, you know, I simply put a black material with specular highlights on it and just added some lights. So here's my spec pass down here. Pop this right in front. You see it's just a little bit of specularity, so I can change this to screen or add. Turn on add. So again, you see specularity there. Just kind of gives them, again, just highlights the parts a little bit, you know, because we did a lot of work in making this somewhat of a complex looking creature, so we don't want to shroud him in darkness, but by the same token, you know, we don't want to see too much. We want some atmosphere. So you can see up close, it looks pretty cool. This spec, I might end up changing the color of it a little bit, you know, giving it some little more blue tint maybe, or some warmth, who knows. But I just want to kind of get these ideas layered in here. Nothing's set in stone yet. We're just kind of, you know, we're just playing around. Now, the big thing is the eye. Okay, I want the eye to be definitely a little more interesting than this. I want to actually see it. Now, what I have here, I have a couple of different things for the eyes. I have eye blue and eye matte. Eye matte is simply, you know, a black and white matte pass, but I might not even need it, because eye blue is just a blue against a black background. So let's bring that in. I use, basically for this is simply that same blue chrome that was the crazy blue, but everything else was just a matte pass. So I'm going to bring that in and change the transfer mode to add, so it brightens up just a little bit here, and you can see the, you know, the black goes away. But I also want this to glow, so I'm going to go to my eye blue TIFF and go to right click and go to Effect, Stylize, and choose Glow. It's off your screen here, but Effect, Stylize, Glow, and it gives it a little bit of a glow. I'm going to up the radius a little bit, and I'm just going to grab this guy and just duplicate him, this layer, eye blue TIFF, and just duplicate it. So now it's got a real glow. And that's really kind of cool. I kind of like that. Now I'll end up probably darkening this a little bit to make the glow stand out a little more. But I want the idea. I want that to be a little bit more, you know, pronounced. I think in looking at this, the specularity I might want to knock down just a bit, because I think it's getting too much in the way of shininess here. Okay. And again, this all can be changed. I'm just kind of overlaying things and seeing what we come up with here. The cavity map we've already put in, okay, and you see here, you know, the one thing that's really missing is the blades. The blades in the back of his leg are really not very recognizable. So let's find a way to make that work. So what I'm going to do is grab my crazy blue again, because this is the one that seems to be the most noticeable. And I'm going to zoom in, Control plus, I'm hitting to zoom in. And I want basically to create a mask that will just highlight these pieces here. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is make this add so that I can see through and see what I'm working with. I'm going to go to my mask tool here. I'm just going to click and drag a very loose mask here to kind of keep just this blade. I'm going to make another mask to keep the other blade. Oops, I missed. Okay, and let's see here. Okay, so we have a really rough looking thing here. I'm going to let's make this a little bit transparent, a little less opaque. Let's make it like something like 80. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to make this 100. And here's what I'm going to do. First I'm going to turn this off the mask so I can see what's going on here. Okay, so you can see it's a little bit bright, but I'm actually going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go to Effect, and I'm going to add a glow to this. I want this to kind of have like the light hitting it. Again, it's off your screen, but I'm going to Effect, Stylize, Glow. Okay, and I am going to actually duplicate this, so now I have two. Now they're really glowing. And I'm going to grab these two and pre-comp them, Control-Shift-C. And I'll call this Fin Glow. And now I can just knock down the opacity of this guy a little bit here. Okay, just kind of make it a little less. But I do want it to be somewhat bright. I want this to, to kind of stand out a little bit. Maybe not that much, but something along those lines. Now I have another version of this here. And what I did here is I masked off that same glow. I masked off a little more, so it's only hitting the edges here instead of the full guy. I think that's probably the way to go. So let's zoom in here again. Oops. Let's click on this guy here. Let's just zoom in. And I'm going to just create a mask now and let's just see what happens if I do this and go to my mask and choose Subtract. And maybe go to a bit of a feather here. Turn off this so we can see what's going on here. Okay, so you get the idea. Let's go to my little mask tool here and let's tweak the way this is set up so it's a little bit more in keeping with the curvature of the blade. And we're going to make another mask for this guy right here. Just remove that, subtract, and once again we'll feather this a little bit and turn off the mask here. So you kind of get this, and you can actually feather this even more to kind of have it slowly, make its way down, and do the same thing to this guy. Okay, and that's pretty cool. So let's go fit up to 100% again. So it kind of has a little bit of a glow to it. I might end up toning that down a little bit more, just so kind of But I like the idea, at any rate, of giving those blades a little bit of a look. Let's just make the feather not quite so crazy. I think that kind of takes away from the sharpest idea of that. Okay, so that's not so bad. Again, I'm going to just play around with that, but the idea is there. Let's just zoom in again and take a look at this. I have a feeling the feather, this blade thing is going to be the death of me. So let's go to the masks again, and let's just tweak this a little bit more here. Something like that, and then I'll just go to the mask and mask expansion, and we'll just, there we go, let's check this out. Yeah, I have to play around with the mask a little bit, but that's the idea. I'm going to go back to my original guy here, and that's not so bad there. Let's bring my original. This is actually the exact same thing. I just did it ahead of time, so I told you before how I tend to be a little bit sloppy when I do it, and I figured I'd give myself a head start so I wouldn't bore you to tears. So there we go. We'll play around with that a little more, but this is just a general look at how we might have this working for us. And I'm going to go into Photoshop now and work on a background that will kind of be a little more fitting for this. Right now, of course, plain black is not really doing it for us. So in the next lesson, we're going to go into Photoshop. I'm going to bring in, one of these is kind of like a guide. And then we're going to work on creating a background that really looks pretty cool and fits in with this. And then we'll probably come back into After Effects and finish it up. So I'll see you in the next lesson.